All right, so today we're going to look at continuing our examination of transboundary pollution in the European area. So we're going to talk about a topic today referred to as the Black Triangle and acid rain. So each year, many tourists flock to Europe to visit many of its famous monuments. Some of these monuments, such as Greek temples and Roman bridges, are more than over 2,000 years old. These items have survived wars, floods, and fires, but their stone structures may not survive modern pollution. Acid rain, which is our topic today, is slowly eating away at these precious relics. As we kind of previously discussed, acid rain is really caused by pollution getting into the air, most of which is caused by people burning things. A century ago, when many people were burning coal to run factories and heat their homes, thick clouds of soot would hang over many cities. You don't really see a ton of that anymore, but today, what we're mainly seeing as far as air pollution and which is going to lead to acid rain is the exhaust from factories as well as cars as being the main source of air pollution. And in turn, that is going to then create acid rain. So air pollution and acid rain is a problem in many places throughout the globe, but some areas create more pollution than others. Historically, a major source of air pollution and acid rain has been the triangle where Germany, Poland, and the Czech Republic meet. Many factories and power plants in this region use lignite, which is a soft brown coal, as their main fuel. Because the soot from the burning coal blackens the air, this area has often been referred to or called the Black Triangle. When lignite burns, it gives off two chemicals, sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. When these two chemicals react with water, they form acids. Acids have a sour taste. For example, you can taste acid in lemon juice or even in vinegar. Acids are also corrosive, which means they will slowly eat away at something until it is destroyed. Acid rain results when the sulfur dioxide and the nitrogen oxides mix with water and moisture in the air. When acid rain, or honestly any form of precipitation, falls from the sky, that's when it creates and generates the problems. So if it falls into a body of water, it can actually turn the water acidic, which if it does get too high, that can actually kill fish. If the acid rain or precipitation falls onto land, especially bodies or areas full of vegetation, it can actually eat away at their leaves and their needles, which will then in turn damage the vegetation. So in the past, the Black Triangle has been filled with many, many sick trees, like you see in this picture, without their leaves or their needles. However, some of this has changed, especially since the 1990s. After the fall of communism, which was a form of government and social structure in the Eastern European area, many European Union countries and people began working together to try to clean some of this up. So it was definitely what we would refer to as a transboundary cooperative effort. Also, some of the factories and power stations in this part of Europe has abandoned the use of lignite, which has kind of helped a little bit. The environment has recovered a great deal, but it still remains a problem today, especially because there still is a lot of industry that is heavily relied upon the economies of Poland and the Czech Republic. So until their economies can get a little bit more stable, they will continue to burn fossil fuels and especially lignite. So because we're talking about transboundary pollution, ever since people began burning coal as fuel, acid rain has always been a problem. So even back to the Industrial Revolution of the 17 and 1800s, acid rain was something that people have dealt with. But in the past, the problem was actually more severe in cities where most factories were located and large numbers of people lived. But then in the 1950s, acid rain really was no longer mostly just an urban problem. Around that time, many coal burning factories and power plants began constructing very high chimneys. So the smoke coming out of these chimneys actually was carried away by some of the high winds. So these new taller chimneys did improve the air quality in the industrial cities and the urban areas, but it actually ended up leading to spreading of air pollution over a much wider area. So today, one country's pollution can quickly become another country's problem, as you can see from this map here. So acid rain, the source of acid rain is going to be these little circles. Depending on their output is the size of the circle, and where the areas are most at risk for receiving the acid rain from the burning of that fossil fuel, you see shaded in the various colors. So much of the pollution that is actually caused by acid rain tends to fall on the Sweden, Norway, Finland area, which is referred to as Scandinavia. Naturally, countries in Europe are concerned about reducing acid rain in the air. And the air pollution that is caused by it, not just because they're monuments, but because of just the damaging things that acid rain can do to life. They recognize that this is a huge undertaking and that it is something that they're going to have to work together on. So this again comes back to the European Union working together, making sure that they share those common goals in order to make life better for everyone in Europe. So here's just a little illustration kind of explaining again how the acid rain would impact. So again, you're seeing on the far left, you've got the output. The burning of the fossil fuels releases sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide that is going to mix with water. It is then going to rain, snow, sleet, or precipitate. And depending on where that acid falls, it can damage the environment, land, vegetation, water, and in turn, it eventually is going to come around and hurt us. Here's also another illustration. So again, showing you the sulfur dioxide and the nitrogen oxides getting in the atmosphere. The chemicals are mixing with water. They precipitate, and they can hurt the environment. All right, so let's take a moment here and take a look at our notes and fill those out. I will fill those out with you here on this video. So please make sure you're on the page where it should say the black triangle and acid rain at the top. So our first question we need to look at is acid rain and what's happening in the Black Triangle region of Europe, is this something that is due to an accident, or is this something that is being caused by everyday activities? And when you examine what's really going on here, this is what we are looking at. We're looking at general pollution, everyday activities of humans burning things, whether through their cars or factories to generate power or factory-made goods. This is a prime example of general pollution at work. So the next question we really want to look at is, what is the root cause of this? Well, when you, again, really look at what's happening here, the Black Triangle is a source of acid rain due to humans burning fossil fuels. It all comes back to us, human activity, and us burning coal or other forms of fossil fuels, and then the byproducts of that getting into the air. So take a moment here and pause if you need to fill out your notes. And then next, we're going to be talking about some of the effects that this is going to have on us and the environment. All right, so acid rain, air pollution is going to bring acid rain to other countries, and therefore there's going to be several consequences. As that acid rain crosses over the borders, here are some of the things that can happen. So acid rain can kill vegetation. We just talked about not that long ago the trees. When the acid rain is continually falling, it is corrosive. It is going to eat away at the leaves, the needles, the trees, and it's going to kill vegetation. In the beginning, I also showed you some pictures of the stone being eaten away slowly by the acid rain in different parts of Europe. So acid rain can destroy monuments. And the third thing is that acid rain can actually change the level of acidity in the water. If enough of it falls over a certain body of water, you can actually kill the aquatic life, killing fish as a result of that. Even though we're not to the point where acid rain is, you step out and it's raining acid rain, it's not going to like hurt you or kill you or eat away at your skin. Long-term effects of killing our plant life and killing our animals is definitely going to have an impact eventually on us. So again, please press pause in the video if you need to catch up with your notes and make sure you get down what I have here on the screen for you. All right, so moving along, how are we going to make sure that we're doing something to try to reduce the impact that acid rain is having on our areas, and how are we going to make this better? Well, there are pretty much 4 solutions here that are currently happening in Europe. Number 1, The countries of Europe have been working together in many ways to reduce acid rain and the effects that it has on the people, the plant life, and the environment. One approach has been through legislation or creation of various laws. Particularly, the European Union has created different kinds of laws and legislation to limit the use of fossil fuels in certain areas. So thanks in part to some of these legislation and laws, sulfur dioxide emissions have declined greatly in Europe. Actually, sulfur dioxide levels have gone down by 94% from 1974 to 2011 in the European Union zone area. So that is a great achievement, but still something that needs to be worked on. Another approach has been to use various new technologies that actually reduce the pollution that is coming from some of the factories as well as some of our cars. For example, many factories and power plants that burn coal still have installed devices called smokestack scrubbers. So I have a little diagram over here for you to see what these are. These get attached to the smokestacks on factories. And what they do is they chemically remove sulfur dioxide from the gases before they leave the smokestack. As a result, less pollution then enters the air and then less acid rain forms. Another type of technology that is currently reducing pollution is something called a catalytic converter. So these are pieces of equipment that are required on all new cars in many places around the world, but notably here in the US, Canada, and in Europe. The catalytic converter works in a very similar way that the smokestack scrubbers do. They reduce emissions of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides from the exhaust pipes from our car. So again, these kind of scientific steps to kind of filter out or at least reduce some of the pollutants getting into the air is kind of what you're seeing here from these two things. And a third approach, which may be one of the better options we need to think about in the future, is just to reduce the use of coal and fuel for power plants and factories. Scientists today have found and continue to seek many new ways to harness the power of the wind, the water, the sun, our geothermal energy of our core to generate power that does not pollute the air and cause acid rain. We will be talking about many of these alternative energy sources in the future, but obviously this is a very clear answer. It's a very expensive answer, but something I think in the future we need to look closely at when we think about trying to clean up our act here on planet Earth. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the last part of your notes. So efforts to reduce acid rain, what I just kind of talked about, here's the ideas captured. So there really are four ways that Europe is working, that Europe is trying to reduce acid rain. Number one, working together to create legislation. This is where the EU comes in. The EU, again, has a legislative body. They work together to see what are some of the issues, create laws, pass reforms, trying to limit and clean up the environment. The next two bullet points are some of those filtration systems, if you will. So installing smokestack scrubbers on smokestacks and basically filtering out some of the sulfur dioxides before they get into the environment. And that's also what a catalytic converter does on our cars. And the fourth final bullet, you may need to add this to your notes, is again, just going back to let's decrease the use of fossil fuels for energy. We know the science behind clean renewable energy, but how do we refine it and how do we make it more affordable so that it's something that is sustainable and feasible for many more people and many generations to come. So again, if you need to press pause and catch up with your notes, please do that now. And the last thing before we wrap up this video here is to take a look at your last part of your notes here. I will not do this one with you. Instead, if you need to go back to various pictures in the video, you can do that as well. There are 4 steps you need to go down through on the right-hand side. Highlight the source of where acid rain is coming from in the European Union. Underline the names of the countries where this pollution really is originating. Lightly shade in your map to show where the acid rain is spreading, and then circle the names of 2 countries that are not responsible technically for the pollution, but are being affected by the spread of acid rain. That concludes the video. Make sure that you have your notes completely filled out for this section, for this case study. And if you need to go back and review, please feel free to do that. Thank you.